Go happening.
Going to find that out too.
Yeah, what chance? Last. Yeah, no. Yeah.
And
Was film.
edit privacy, public, of course, because we it's dark, isn't it? Alright. Glow in the dark. Pardon me. Now we're looking black and white.
That is a bit, isn't it? We need a bit more colour than that. Order. Well, let's make it up, eh? That's not bad. That's actually pretty natural.
That's all right. That's all right.
All right.
When we're live and direct.
Okay. Have we got some audio happening?
No.
Check the levels. You should be able to see them, shouldn't you?
Normally you can see them.
Yeah. Audio.
So we're talking.
Oh, yeah. There's levels there. All right.
Everything's Mickey Mouse.
Great work, production manager.
Oh, I tell you what. How we gonna? How
many hats? You must have a massive head because you wear about 17 hats.
Fuck up. Definitely got a massive head. Plenty of people would.
Sit back so the crowd can see you good.
Yes, yes, that's it. Ladies and gentlemen,
welcome.
Dean and Irv Spin Doctors once again, live and direct from the Stolen House.
Yes,
the Stolen House.
The Stolen House. You think
we're in a different den for the evening.
On the move. Keep them guessing. Keep them helping.
Yeah, that's the kind of part of it. And the other part of it is obviously the little bloke's home, where he belongs. The auntie dies away. She's off at a family wedding.
So you're multitasking.
Fuck.
When you're child minding.
Oh, well, no, I know. I'm just fathering. That's my job.
Broadcasting,
selling cars, run a pest control company. What do we got? Courier business keeps growing, which I don't know. I'm starting to get nervous about how busy that's getting.
Yeah, it's going well.
Then we got politics in the middle of it because even though I've tried to almost sit this one out, I still get plenty of phone calls every day from candidates and supporters of candidates and people running campaigns. Done some laundry, Auntie Di, just in case you're tuning in.
Yeah, no. The place looks pretty good, Di, I'll tell you.
It's not Die Zone.
Give him about 4 out of 10, which isn't bad.
Considering half of it looks like a friggin' freight depot, but anyway.
Not bad.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. I hope everyone had a good Easter, good Anzac. That's pretty much what April is, isn't it, really? Anzac Day.
It's been a long week this week because we've had 2 short weeks leading up to it, and it got to about Wednesday, and I thought, well, surely we've done enough this week. But obviously not, so I had to go to work today, and I've got to back it up tomorrow. But anyway, we'll get there.
The area of life I've given up on is the fact that I wake up about 4 every morning, and by 4:15 I'm running late. Yeah. It's just my life. I'm just up, and then I go, shit, brush my teeth, done everything. Oh, crap.
I'm late.
And I'm late.
Yeah.
Just like that.
That happens.
Happens all the time.
As you get older, you're used to being late, so it doesn't worry you so much.
Yeah, look, it's not so much that it worries me. It's not a worry thing. I just know that there's a certain amount of things that if I can get them done by 7 a.m., I'm in line for a cracking day. The flow's really, really good.
Yeah.
You know, if I can get up and deliver 30 parcels in either tomorrow or June at some ungodly hour, you know, so if you do wake up in the morning and it's like, 6 a.m. and Santa's been on your front door, it's probably me.
Yeah.
That's in tomorrow or June. I don't do that in Wagga as much anymore. I got characters for that.
Yeah.
But and then obviously get ready for work, get the boy ready, load that up. Like he's, in a phase where he doesn't want lunches packed or anything. He's too cool for that. He just grabs bits and pieces, and if you pack him a lunch, he just brings the freaking thing home anyway.
Yeah.
But
That's right. He doesn't look like he's lost any condition, so he's going all right. He's getting to feed something.
He's not starving, that's for sure.
No, let's do the intros.
Let's do it.
My name's Anthony Irvine. I'm a councillor on Temora Shire Council, but the views I express here are mine and mine alone.
And I'm Dean McRae, and this is all just me. I say exactly what I think when I think how I think it. Make no apologies unless I actually feel like I owe an apology. But other than that, I just shoot straight from the hip.
And collectively, we operate as the spin doctors.
We do, yes.
And our main job is to counteract the massive amount of spin that we encounter in our day-to-day.
I believe it could also be defined as bullshit and lies when we spot it out, you know.
And so we try and cure as much of that as we can. We do our very best. We take it upon ourselves to correct a few of the
wrongs in the world,
the more far-fetched articles that might be presented in the local media, and a few of the rumours and the innuendo that may or may not be true.
Yeah.
We try and at least give an alternative opinion on it,
which I think is important. I think that's very important.
And left to their own devices, people can spin a pretty interesting story. There was the case there a few weeks ago where the Temora Independent led with the front page of huge land release.
Yes.
But when you dug into that land was already zoned large lot residential, and there had been no rezoning. There was the proposal that there may be a overarching master plan for the area.
Yep.
And that was about it.
Yeah.
So huge land release, no. No. Huge land, no. Land already released. Land already
released, but some bits and pieces going on in and around it, and we needed a story for the front cover of the paper.
It was just, let's beat it up and make it look like something really big's happened when probably it hasn't.
Look, and you know, if you're short of a story, make one up about me. I'm okay with that.
Well,
what's today's?
They make plenty up about me.
Oh, well, yeah, that's right. I give them the occasional bit of fodder, but you know, what's on the front page of the Bugle today?
Okay, so we always review the local rag, the Temora Independent. At the moment, the editor-in-chief, is Peter Marnie. Peter Marnie's had an illustrious career in local editorial doings and comings and goings. He's listed here as the group editor for a group of papers. They have a Riverina Media Group. So, published by Hartley Higgins for Riverina Media Group, Proprietary Limited. So, Peter Marnie's the group editor. We've got some journalists listed here. Sean Cunningham is a Scotsman, the Flying Scotsman.
The Flying or the Lying Scotsman?
Well, it all depends whether we drop the F-bomb.
Yeah, well, I don't know the bloke, but if I catch him lying, I'm happy to say it out loud. Anytime I do this line of thing, people love jumping on me when they get an opportunity.
Sometimes some of these more far-fetched articles don't have a attribution. Hard to believe.
Yeah, no.
Those ones you've got to put down to Propaganda Pete or Peter Marnie as the group editor is fondly referred to.
Well, yeah.
Because he does, in my opinion, promote a bit of propaganda.
I think you're very kind to him. I think he's a complete spaz.
Well, that's your opinion.
Oh, I know. Am I allowed to have an opinion? It's 2025. Has that been outlawed yet?
Now, there's a new journalist who's just joined the paper. Now, his name is Thomas Gosling. Now, as we all know, a gosling is a baby goose. We hope that Thomas doesn't grow up to be a real goose.
A real goose, yeah. Well,
a big goose.
You're being watched, Thomas. We're taking notice, son.
You going okay so far?
So far, so good. Yeah. So
keep them training wheels.
The Anzac Day
forked up tight, and
Anzac Day made the front page as well. It should.
Yeah, Thomas was taking care of that article.
That's good. I was there. Look, I thought the turnout was a bit less this year than last year. Numbers wise. Well,
was that the main?
Well, I went to both.
Yeah.
So I was at the morning, the dawn service,
and there was a major service.
And then there was the major service later on in the day. I think the dawn service was a bit light on numbers. Actually, to be fair, I think they probably both were, maybe. But they were still, you know, it was all well done, all that sort of thing. It was good.
Well, we're pretty lucky here. Like it just says here in the paper. Now, I went to the dawn service and I left for Sydney to go up for a family do. But they said they had a Spitfire fly over for the.
They did, yes.
Well, that's pretty impressive, isn't it? There wouldn't be too many towns that could say they had a World War II era Spitfire
Do a little
flying
flyover
over
in the middle of the show.
and enhance their Anzac Day ceremony. So,
Oh, yeah, look, no doubt about it.
that's pretty special.
Now, 8 dogs poisoned sounds pretty dramatic.
Yeah, there's an area in Gallipoli Street down near the dog track where residential residences, there's a claim that they're being targeted. There's a reports here from a resident saying that her dogs have been poisoned and other dogs in the area have been poisoned. But as it points out in the article, there is no complaints to the police and no dogs have been presented to the vet for autopsies or. So at this point in time,
Sounds like a mystery.
well, at this
who's
point in time, someone's making claims, but there are stories of people jumping over fences. And look, if dogs are turning up dead unexpectedly, consistently,
There's, yeah,
and people are
for
jumping
sure.
fences,
There's always room
there's
there.
certainly room for an investigation.
I would reckon so, yeah.
Next page, we've got some local employees receiving some Rotary Excellence Awards for their services, which is fantastic. Little bit of stuff on the election, Anzac Day. Now, another reader of the Independent pointed out to me earlier today
Yeah.
that the mayor is conspicuous by his absence. Would you believe that our illustrious mayor, Mr. Rick B. Furman, or Ricky B. Furman as he's been christened, he seems to have dropped the Y in later life, but he's actually christened, a birth name is Ricky.
It's a bit like a James versus a Jimmy, maybe, or you know,
Yeah.
if you're trying to upgrade your persona a bit
Trying to
more,
act a bit
more
serious.
distinguished or something. Extinguished.
Anyway, would you believe in a whole paper there's one picture?
I'll tell you what.
And I'm telling you, even in the bit of the shadows with the hat on, if you weren't looking close, you wouldn't find him.
You wouldn't notice. Well, I'll tell you what.
But I think he might have been ordered or asked to take a back seat and leave a bit of room for Michael.
For his buddy Michael.
Yeah, so
Poor old Michael. Look,
Michael McCormick, who's our federal member for the LNP and current sitting member for the seat of Riverina in the federal sphere, has been campaigning hard. I actually saw the Michael train out here today.
The Michael train, yeah.
He was pressing the flesh out the front of the early voting centre. So Michael made the trip to
which compared to all the other candidates, you see, he doesn't actually have a job or a business to run. So he gets to just do that all day. He's a full-time campaigner. Yeah. So, you know, look, good luck to him. But
I think the most important story that I could find relating to the long-term future of Temora, and something that all residents should really be interested in, was this article by Tom Gosling.
All right.
$5 million to stop flooding. Temora flood problem discussed at council. So he opens up with the first paragraph and says, another step along the long road to building flood mitigation works and warning systems in Temora was taken at last week's Temora Shire Council meeting. Councillors endorsed an application by the town planner, so that's a local council officer, for funding from New South Wales Government Stage 3, an investigation, design and feasibility study. If successful, the application would commit the council to providing $10,000 in 2026 financial year and $20,000 in 2027. The remainder of the total projected cost of more than $200,000 would be met by the New South Wales Government. Now, I think it's a 6-to-1 or a 7-to-1 funding. So if we put in 30 grand, they put in 210.
Yeah, right.
So, but this is just for a planning phase. Okay, so $5 million to stop flooding, and council have committed 30 grand over 2 years to do a study.
Yeah, right.
And we have to get 200 odd off the state government.
Yeah, right.
So it's not going to happen next week. So hopefully it doesn't rain too much, but everyone wants rain.
Yes. Well, we need a certain amount.
Upon completion in mid-2028, the study would open the way for council to apply for funding for stage 4. implementation expected to cost more than $5 million, not counting the cost of council and SES staff. So that flood mitigation work involves stormwater detention basins and an extension of the stormwater detention sort of project that's already been started in town. So don't hold your breath. We all want it to rain because it's very dry around here at the moment, but just not too much, and it's just got to fall in the right place at the right time in the right amounts.
Well, look, we as humans are certainly arrogant enough to think that we should be able to control, mitigate, manage as much of this stuff as humanly possible. As a species, we are very arrogant by nature in various ways.
Yeah, but Mother Nature does like slapping us down.
As she should.
And she does. Puts us in our box fairly regularly.
Fairly regularly. No,
so anyway,
I know they tell us it's climate change, but let's be fair, it's just called the weather, and it's been happening.
It is called the weather.
It's been happening for 4.5 billion planets. 4.5 billion years.
Yeah.
4.5 billion planets.
That's probably the most important thing. So really, they've got some plans on the table. They need to do a future study. Once they've done the study, then they can apply for some grant funding to implement the major elements of the study.
Yeah, right.
And like I say, we've got a lot of pressure starting to mount. There's developments underway that are going to start adding to the load on the current stormwater system.
Yep.
If we don't get something in place shortly, we're going to get caught with our pants down because the current stormwater system is pretty much at capacity, and that's been demonstrated by all of the previous flood work.
Yeah, of course.
So yes, let's get this process rolling and hurry it up. Now, isn't it funny? Well, as we discussed a few shows ago, that we go to all this trouble, all this planning, all these flood studies, and then individual landowners go and punch great drains in.
Yes, I believe we did notice a certain local councillor involved in something similar.
So I don't know what the point is in some respects. Can a local landowner just go and punch a drain through and redirect water and divert water here and divert water there without reference to all of the hydrologic studies that have been done by the engineers? I don't know.
I'm all for it.
Well, it seems to be the way things go.
So the only difference is I'm all for anybody who wants to do that shit doing it, not just those who think they're a little bit special.
But I just hate to be downstream of people like that.
Well, that's right. But if you go downstream of them, that's when you go and knock on the door and you go, "Oh, dickhead."
But one thing I will say, and this is another example of it, is that the government wants to control everything.
Oh, well, there's the next little article here that I've just read. And as you all know, guys, I don't really read this.
And they're desperate.
Candidates are urged to support local news. Country Press Australia wants candidates to support a policy demanding a fairer share of government advertising. I want governments to stop advertising, stop wasting my fucking money that you've stolen from me on bullshit. What do the government need to advertise? They have a monopoly on everything.
Well, that was
stop advertising. You have nothing to promote. Most of you in Parliament are corrupt or very close to.
That's one of the unusual admissions that Bill Shorten made shortly before he left the federal sphere, that the NDIS was supporting a huge amount of Australia's GDP growth.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
But one in 5 Australians is allegedly disabled now.
Wow.
And that came from our buddies at the Labor Party.
So if 1 in 5 are allegedly disabled, then 1 in 5 are going to need to care for them. 2 in 5 are probably too young to work or too old to work.
And the other 2 are going to have to cut in because nobody can work 24 hours a day to care for them.
What I'm saying is the math means that one person's disabled, one person's caring for them, one person's too old, one person's too young to work. So there's one person left
who has to cover the shift
to pay for the old person and the young person and the carer and the cared for.
It's broken. This country is heading off a
camels who just need one more little straw and they're going to buckle up.
It's already there. You know, it's already there. This country's heading off a cliff, 100 mile an hour and bullshit like that. But one in 5 is the number that the Labor Party are promoting.
Wow.
Now, anybody who goes, "Oh, well, you're just an LNP
show," young,
I hate them both equally. I think they're both corrupt.
People with disabilities in Australia would have been 1 in 5,000.
I knew a chef with a fucking literally one arm.
Yes, but he wasn't classing himself as disabled. He's just
No.
classing himself as a one-arm chef.
He just went, I've just got one arm. I
Yeah.
lost an arm.
Yeah.
Fuck, I'm going to go to work. I've got bills to pay.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, one arm. Hello.
One
Now,
arm.
I know chefs that can't cook with two arms. I know plenty of people that can't cook toast.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
this guy cooked at a very high standard for a fellow with one arm.
Yes.
And you've got people who apparently dandruff now counts as a fucking disability.
Ah.
I'm serious. This is the sort of bullshit
Yeah.
that's bleeding the country dry. These idiots, we want to run a fucking newspaper and we want the government to spend a certain amount of money advertising with us. That's not what free market private enterprise
No, but it is what has kept. Look,
That's
we
why
know.
this shit show still exists.
Yes, when we actually review the power play and the basis that the more independent the editorial content is based upon, it pretty much is cash for comment.
Of course, it's cash for comment.
Yes,
Therefore, they deserve to be
we've seen
bankrupted.
multiple examples of propaganda being spouted, and even to the point where it's almost it looks as though it's been prepared for and written by other parties and just cut and pasted.
I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest.
Yes. So
You know?
I have been so thankful for platforms such as this and Facebook and other social media platforms, so that I've had the voice to communicate my story and the other side of the story when these platforms get out of control and they start to absolutely punch that propaganda button and smash it to pieces.
Absolutely.
They panic and they punch propaganda. They spew propaganda forth. And I'm telling you, if you didn't have these alternative sources,
Oh, you'd be absolutely buggered.
yeah. So
Absolutely. Like they do what they want when they want, how they want. The only problem is now, all you've got to do is have, what have we got here? We've got a little laptop with a little side camera that you've provided, and this little program I pay for.
yep,
I mean, obviously a couple of Facebook pages, a YouTube channel,
a few bits and bytes of internet data.
internet data, and you're good to go.
Happy as Larry.
Good to go. And you can stick your corruption fair up your ass, and I'll call you on it, and I couldn't care less.
Yeah, and we don't need to be bought and paid for because we're running on a fit shoestring.
Well, look, I'll tell you what. If somebody wants to offer me $1 million for comment, I'll be more than happy to comment. They might not like the comment, but you know, like, I mean, I'd be more than happy for somebody to go, oh, we want to sponsor the program. But you're not getting a say on what's promoted within the confines of the program at all.
That's one thing that I've found that is really obvious once you start to be involved in Temora Shire Council and the whole process is just how controlled everything is and just how desperate some senior figures of council are to keep control of everything. And I mean everything.
Oh, it doesn't surprise me.
It is absolutely out of control. That life is being choked out of this town. The freedom, the spontaneity, it's just completely, it's been smashed. There's no zip, there's no buzz, there's no laughter. It's just tight and choked and very straight. And yes.
Oh, don't want anybody saying anything nasty about me. What if, oh shit.
We're the friendly town.
Aren't
we? Yes. We're the friendly town.
I'd like to think I'm pretty friendly. Right up until you give me a reason not to be.
We're the friendly town.
Yeah.
Until we take you out the back and do it to you.
Tell you right up. Yeah, they do like a bit of that.
They do.
They do like a bit of that.
And then they come back and they go, we're the friendly town.
Toe the line, don't you?
Toe the line.
Why are you getting out of
Don't be uppity. Yes. Oh, there's a lot of that going.
The beatings will continue until morale improves. The beatings will continue.
Anyway, I think it'd be remiss of us to obviously not refer to the big shit show, the Democracy Fest that's upcoming and in full swing. Dutton's disaster, I think, would be apt.
As you know, I'm probably far more in tune with federal and international politics than I am with local stuff.
Probably I could be accused of that as well.
I got accused of punching down the other day, and I'm like, I fucking swing at, prime ministers, entire governments, fucking, I don't know how I can indicate that I try to swing down. But I want to know who told Dutton to stand down.
Yes.
He's been told. He's been tapped on the shoulder, and he's been told, "You're not winning this fucking thing, Peter.
No.
So make yourself look like a sped,
Mm.
because it's not happening, sir."
No. It's the strategy that they've rolled out has been so disjointed, so ill-considered, and so back of a beer coaster type every night at the pub.
I almost think they didn't know an election was fucking coming.
But every night at the pub, it's like, what are we going to do tomorrow? And it's like, oh, well, what's on TV? Oh, look, Trump's done this and Trump's done that. Oh, well, let's hitch ourselves.
We'll have to do that for about half a statement, and then as soon as somebody fires, and that's the problem of
Trump comes to power in the US, Dutton hitches himself hard to the Trump train. They go out with all these policies that are just copied straight out of the Trump playbook, and they go, we're trumping it up. We're trumping hard. Then all of a sudden, Trumpy bangs a few tariffs on. Trumpy's a bit on the nose.
They've shit
Dutton
themselves.
goes, oh, unhook the Trump train. We're not on the Trump wagon. We got nothing to do with Trump. We're woke and we're bespoke.
Yeah. Fuck. Look, here's the problem with these pricks, and that goes for both sides of them. And that's why, look, and I've got a lot of people in my sphere, because of the things that I believe and stand for, that really think that I should lean into the LNP. And on paper, I should.
Yes, you should.
On paper, I should absolutely be an LNP guy. In reality, there's nothing more I despise than gutless, lying cowards. And at the moment, as much as I detest every policy the Labor Party has, at least they're kind of honest about what they want to do.
Oh,
they are loud and proud fucking communist pricks.
They just want to get their democracy sausage.
Yes.
And they just want to jam it into every Australian as much as they can. And they're doing it consistently.
And we're proud of it. Look at what we're doing. We are raving you finally, and you will like it.
If you vote for us on Saturday and you get your democracy sausage, we're going to keep giving you that democracy sausage the next day and the next day and the next day for the next 4 years. We are going to get that democracy. You are going to be that sick of that democracy sausage. As we are going to be hitting you over the head with it. We are going to be doing
every financial plan we have is going to be based on net zero. And fuck you and your family.
And there'll be rainbows and there'll be drag queens. There'll be drag queens with wind turbines.
It's going to be fantastic. Whereas the other pricks believe in all the same shit and want all the same shit. They're just not brave enough to say it out loud.
If they can't even make up their mind, are we trumping it up or aren't we trumping it up?
They've got no courage of conviction.
No, are we going to cut the public service size or aren't we going to cut the public service size? Yeah, it's just like, what are we doing today?
Do the public servants have to work from home or are they allowed to stay at home?
Yes.
You know, like this is not hard stuff.
No, make your mind up and stick it. If you're going to run the country, you've got to stick to something.
These pricks couldn't run a bath.
No.
And it sounds like...
well, Sportsbet have made their mind up.
Oh, look,
I had a look at the odds today, and they're probably shortened today.
If we went back 6 to 8 weeks here,
yes,
I'm pretty sure before it was even called, but we knew it was coming. And I've no doubt I said to you and the people, I said, all Dutton's got to do...
Shut his mouth.
Shut up. Just shut up, hold the line, say very, very little.
If you had gone to the Pope's funeral early.
Roll out the basic principles of, we're better economic managers, we're going to tighten the border. Had he not veered and tried to be something he's not, which that's what trying to be a Trump is. You haven't got the balls, brains, or a third the charisma that man's got. To even try and pull it off. Yeah, but to even try and pull it off, there's a couple of things. You've either got to have, one, the conviction to follow it through, or if you don't have the conviction, by Christ, you've got to be a hell of a showman to try and keep it.
You've got to be,
You've got to have, there's a recipe for Trump to do what Trump does. Yeah. He's got a massive personality.
You've got to be a magician and you've got to pull a rabbit out of your arse.
Big personality, big charisma. Yeah. He's got a big bank account, which I think Dutton's got a big bank account. But Trump's actually following through on about 80%.
Now,
of what he said he was going to do.
Dutton's bank account.
Yeah.
Apparently, he's had a few battles over the years in declarations of interests.
Yeah.
And he's had some childcare centres that he's had some interests in that were receiving government funding that he hadn't declared. Look, he shifted those interests away from his own personal interests, but I think they exist still today in his wife's interests. Now, he wouldn't benefit from that, would he?
The
Ha, okay. Now, that was my joke. Now, also, there's another Liberal running in Kooyong against a teal.
yeah.
Now, this poor, downtrodden, hard-bitten, hard-working Aussie Sheila wants to get on the home ownership ladder. She's a renter. And it just, you feel sorry for her. And then you find out she's got an investment property in London, and an investment property in Canberra. And she was one of those young people who happened to be the recipient of a $20 million trust at a certain age that was sort of left to her, or some part of her future plans.
Yes. But they're
And
all like
then-
that. But it doesn't matter which which pile of poo you look into. They all are just as off their heads and full of shit as each other.
So it's like the Wizard of Oz, isn't it? Pull the curtain away. Oh, there's the real scumbag.
Absolutely.
So why don't they just turn up and say, here I am, what's and all, scumbag?
Because when you do that, like I've done in every election that I've been in, you don't get elected. Therefore, you miss the gravy train.
No, you don't get elected because you don't kiss enough tush.
Same thing.
If you puck it up and kiss Dutton's freckle hard,
I've had quite a few offers over the years to,
if you got on
assume the position, if you will.
If you did that, then you've got enough front and enough PR and enough BS.
Look,
be a viable member in those machines. And if you were anointed at the time, then you would.
The problem is I refuse to be anointed. Is where I come into. That's
and
what a lot of
kissy on the butt.
Yeah. Well, and look, and that's I've been reached out to by many parties other than the Lib Dems or Libertarians. Now, obviously, that was an organisation.
Did you feel like you were being groomed?
I tell you what, I had some discussions with some folks who were going, listen, if you came and joined us in the big boys and you just have to just shut up on this, and this, we can get you elected with your personality.
If you stop being yourself
and
abandon all of your principles, we can make a man out of you.
We can.
Well, and you know what happens after they've sold you up the river, sold you down the river, sold you into slavery, sold you out of slavery, sold you into prostitution, sold you out of prostitution, ruined your career, ruined your future, ruined your life, and cast you aside.
Oh, no, they wouldn't do that. You did a government job for life and you'd be fucking on a pension forever. So as long as you shut your trap and disappeared and towed the right line.
If you survived all of that, maybe after politics, you'd have a career in business.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah. And you might have been able to set
I tell you who looks like he has run the Dean playbook and looks like he's actually going to get in is Stewie Bonds.
Good.
I don't know if you've
checked
any of him.
Yep.
Personality-wise, Stuart and I are great mates. We get along very well. I'm actually a little bit heartbroken. I'm not going to be able to get up there this week and actually work for him. I would absolutely understand with the man. And to anybody who is watching that has some time and is willing to go and be a part of a campaign, he's in the Hunter. You'd have to go for a trip to the beautiful Hunter.
Yeah.
But he's a man who, a former Queensland Premier, who I consider a friend. And I had a fairly serious differences of agreement. Sorry?
Stewie Bonds isn't the former Queensland.
No, Stewie's not the former. Campbell Newman and I had a pretty heated discussion over Stewie at one point when he left One Nation, and I was involved very, very heavily. I think I might have even been the president of the Lib Dems at the time in New South Wales. I wanted Stuart to come and join the fold. I feel he's 98% as libertarian as I am. Anything we differ on is 2/10 of nothing. I thought he would have been a good fit, and now in hindsight, looks like he's going to get elected on the One Nation ticket. He's gone back to One Nation, which is fair enough. Like a lot of people say to me, One Nation, and I go, I'm just not. There's a couple of things that I don't sit right with me. I'd be happy enough to go into war next time.
Yeah.
We're happy enough to be friends with him. And look, Stuart's, I think he's polling about 25, 26%. Sports bets brought him down from $26 down to, I think it was 10. So that's shortening right up real quick. The Nationals and the Labor Party it's a Labor held seat.
It's a Labor-held seat in a coal mine and town
Yeah.
and a woke wind farm-driven world.
Yes.
So
So there's a lot
there'll be
of
a bit of disgruntled Labor grassroots.
there's a lot of grassroots Labor blokes who are going, hang on a minute, this bloke is a coal miner, and he assures me that on the first day, if he is elected of Parliament, he'll be going in there in his bloody coal miner's uniform, because that's what he's worn every day of his working life, and he'll be going in there to absolutely tear shreds.
Good.
Now, Stewie and I,
I'm a big hole.
oh, mate, I tell you what, and he's got the capability. He's better looking than I am.
Yep.
Chicks kind of dig him.
Believe.
He's got the, I know, right?
According to you.
Oh, look, good looking, charming, funny.
Yeah.
Extremely humble, considering how good I am.
I'm surprised you don't resent him.
No, I don't do jealousy, mate. Jealousy is a different type of trait.
High five.
But I tell you what, though, I'd love to see him get in.
Yes. Oh.
Now, Stewie, a bit like myself, but probably with more gravitas and more intensive fury, received very, very serious overtures from the National Party over the last 2 years, knowing that he is a guy who can win the seat based on who he is.
Yeah, he's got the support of the community.
He is who he is. He is what he is. They know him. He is that.
But he's authentic.
He's absolutely real.
In a world full of charlatans.
And the Nationals.
Yes.
I think the number was about 100 grand they offered to spend on could have been more. But look, mate, we just come and join us. Get behind us. We'll get behind you. We'll give you everything you need. As I've had discussions with similar parties, not to that quite with that intensity. I was a bit of a, you'd be better than us, the candidates we've got. We'll shove you in somewhere. Stu was obviously, he is the meat and potatoes of that area. Well, he nearly won the seat a couple of elections ago.
Yeah, right.
He was very, very close. He nearly beat Joel Fitzgibbon, who was probably the last great Labor Party man.
Yeah, right.
And when I say great, he was probably the pick of the bunch where you go, he's the most sensible prick in the Labor Party. And Stu nearly got him.
Wow.
So this time around,
so he's a real chance.
He's a dead set chance, absolute dead set chance, and you probably still get on him at a reasonable price if you go into sports bet. Great guy. He and I had
be encouraged gambling, of course.
You're a grown adult. You do whatever you want. Yeah. But he and I had quite a few discussions over the last probably 6 months as things were starting to heat up because we knew it was coming. And he's going, I'll have the biggest budget I've ever had if I go with the Nats. So, yeah, but you'll have to support net zero.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, I can't, mate. I can't do that. And we just did this backwards and forwards. And of course, at the time, Pauline was sensible enough to go, we could probably bury the hatchet with Stu over. They had a bit of a falling out, which happens in politics. But he is cut from the cloth that fits One Nation or the libertarian mold. It's where he belongs. The Nats, you've got to sell your soul.
Yes.
So I was when he rang and said, no.
Yeah, you got to get on that party train.
Yeah, and you got to toe the line, and you do that obviously with Pauline's One Nation.
Barnaby up the front.
But if you join One Nation, most of it, if you're that way inclined, you're that way inclined anyway. You don't really have to sell your soul. There might be one or two things you go, okay, I'll compromise on this, I'll compromise on that. Whereas with the Nats, you're told what's going to happen. The machine's too big.
You've still got to be pragmatic enough to realise that you're never going to get your own way 100% because it's just the world.
Look, I'll tell you what.
Me and you don't agree 100% on.
No.
So Stewie and Pauline aren't going to agree 100% on.
And nor should they.
No.
At the end of the day, it's Pauline Hanson's One Nations.
Yes.
But you look at it, and when he rang and said, mate, I've decided I'm going with Pauline.
But she also needs to consider,
she needs talent. She's not a spring chicken. If she wants her party and legacy to continue, she needs to find some young people who are capable, principled.
Yes.
I haven't always agreed with Pauline, but I think she's pretty principled.
Well, at least she gets out of bed every day being Pauline Hanson and goes to bed every night being Pauline Hanson and not Dutton, who gets out one day and he's Trump, and then the next day he's
next day he's in a tutu at Mardi Gras trying to work out which and you know what, again, don't care about that stuff. Like, you are that way inclined that you want to go and wear a tutu and go on a float and celebrate whatever the fuck, right? I don't care, right? But you can't pretend to be a hardcore conservative and represent a hardcore conservative base when you're doing that shit, because it kind of flies in the face of what you're trying to represent.
I just can't believe that about face is done on 1,000 things in this election. Like every day, I think the only thing that's been certain is that Dutton will change.
Dutton will fuck something up. And I watched him on the TV the other day, and it was the first time I've sat and actually watched him interview this. I've seen him do a million over the years, but this time I said, "Oh fuck, yeah, right, I won't change the channel." And he was terrible.
But Albanese,
he was a blithering, gibbering. He didn't know what to say. He was waffling on about the Middle East.
Can you imagine someone who actually had a bit of going and what? Albanese always comes across to me as someone who's just left the pub, maybe 2 beers too late.
Oh,
the way he talks and that, it's like, are you been on the sauce?
Yeah. Well, I think that's how we get through life.
Yeah,
but and I've had
no, but I mean, just like that's the way he comes across, and I'm sure that someone who was really switched on and had their shit in a pile and
you could chew him to pieces.
Yeah,
you could shred the guy. Yeah. It's a 3-minute debate.
Yeah, particularly
get on the stage, big fella. I'll sort you out. Not a problem.
But if all you had to do was just have some solid policy and pick apart, like he's left himself wide open to 1,000 arguments. But
when you've got no principles, and when you're flip flopping and your only master is the polls,
and
you've got no hope. You're done.
Australia in a housing crisis. You've got immigration levels running at record. You've got on and on it goes. It's not hard to build a case against him.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Very, very easy.
And
we have record immigration. We've got a housing crisis. So guess what? First thing we're going to do, all immigration stops for 6 months. After that, we're going to do immigration based on merit. That means if you're coming here to work, create a business, generate an income, and pay taxes, I oppose taxes. But if you're going to be here and I've got to pay them, guess what? So do you.
Maybe the first criteria should be we'll limit the migrants to builders. And the first test for your citizenship is that you build your own house.
I've got no problem with that.
Yeah, because what's the point of bringing in 600,000 people with skills? We've still got to house them.
We've got to put them somewhere.
We can't house the people we've got.
Correct.
Now, this is just a little aside, but we're getting to the point in Australia where local governments are starting to impose camping fees in national parks, camping fees on farmland. There's a farmer up in Queensland who was he had half a dozen little campsites on his 300-acre block that he was using to just top up his income
and give people a nice place to go and camp.
And people from the city were loving it. They were coming out, they were camping out on his farm, and they thought it was fantastic. Well, the local council's got involved now, and all the bullshit and the DAs and all the crap, and they're basically shut the business down.
Of course they have.
Because they're control freaks.
Stop giving these people power.
Well, they're just choking.
They choke entrepreneurs.
They're parasitic.
Yeah, of course
they're parasitic. They latch on to something that's viable and living, and they put their
claws into it. They suck everything they can
the juice out of that life, that living creature.
Yep.
Then they drop off and they find another host.
That's what they do.
And they breed. And they have to, like, these hosts can only take so much.
Mate, that's what councils are. That's what state politicians are. The whole thing is just
control. So even these people are being proactive, like life on the land's hard enough.
Yeah,
they're scratching away.
And how do you create another layer of income? Oh, well, hang on, we need a piece of that. Fuck off.
Yes,
you don't. You don't need a piece of it. Here's what you need to do: go and get a productive, useful job. One of the best tweets I saw this week. I don't know if they're called tweets anymore, but tweets. David Pocock.
Yes.
He's a pretend fucking green in the ACT. Declaring that
a blue-green
algae. Blue-green.
We'll call him the algae, the blue-green algae.
And he was calling for, and you can't quote me verbatim because I can't remember exactly the tweet, but I did give him a little response. Government needs to invest more heavily into Canberra because it's hurting all the industries here. There's not more investment into Canberra, something along those lines.
That sounds very socialist, doesn't it?
Oh, it's absolute communist fucking shit.
So they should call them the purpose.
As I tagged on and I said, no, David. The people of Australia are already being taxed to the eyeballs to fund useless bullshit. Right? How about the people in Canberra start showing some sort of entrepreneurial capability to function without this drip-fed, or it's not even drip-fed anymore, it's just gushing fucking government money pumping in to keep that joint alive. If you turned off the government money in Canberra, it'd be fucking Barm Edmund in 6 months.
I think you'd drive in there in 6 months' time and all you'd hear would be, nah.
Yes.
And it'd be a a lone merino on the hill
That's all they'd be.
from
Canberra would
Cooma
be
that had,
absolutely obliterated. There would be nothing left. But Burley Griffin would be like the Barmaid Bull.
yes.
And it'd be sitting there and everybody would be confused. It'd be a complete ghost town because idiots like David Pocock go, oh, well, the people of Canberra are suffering for industry. We need to have more investment. Where's that investment coming from? It's coming off the back of our miners. It's coming off the back of our farmers. It's coming off the back of the people who actually fucking work.
Yes.
You know,
Produce and contribute.
produce, contribute, develop, create things. We manufacture next to nothing.
Yeah.
And that's not going to change because our power prices are too high and our minimum wages are too high. What does Australia produce these days? What do we actually
Canberra
produce?
needs a wood chipper factory, doesn't it? Really?
Oh, fuck no.
If someone built wood chippers there, in years to come, they could probably make.
I can think of quite a few I'd like to jam in a fucking wood chipper, but, you know, I can think of a real long list.
No, anyway,
but
Canberra is. I remember there was an interesting article where they had professional shooters in shooting rabbits off the grounds of Parliament House because they were being overrun
yes,
by rabbits. But anyway, there's a lot of rabbits in Canberra.
there's a lot of fucking pests too. Don't worry about that.
Now, I really do think Albo is going to give.
I think Albo's going to walk back in the door.
Yeah.
And you noticed, I don't know if you noticed, Penny's
this democracy sausage thing, it's going to get out of hand.
It's already out of hand. Penny's already admitted that they're bringing back the voice
Oh,
part 2. That's
Penny's going to pull the democracy sausage.
Penny's on that. We're gonna have a voice part
Voice
2
two.
because we're getting it whether we like it or not. Do you remember gay marriage? It's like Penny, fuck off.
Yeah, she just said, "Oh, it's just a matter of time, doesn't it?"
We will just, and then that's what it is. These people, they're so relentless with their bullshit.
And they'll wear us down.
People get worn down because they're apathetic.
Well, because they just get worn down. Now, we've got to get to the key point here, though. If you want something to change, there's no point doing the same thing.
Why not?
Well, nothing will change.
Yeah, no, but they say that it'll change. So if you vote Michael McCormack, it'll change because he says so.
It won't change.
He'll get the country on track. He said it. I saw his sign.
Yeah, but he's had, 14 years of doing that?
Yeah, but it's said on the sign.
Oh, right.
And you can't lie in political advertising.
Okay. There's 13 candidates for the seat of Riverina this year, the federal seat of Riverina.
Yep.
I strongly urge every individual to go into that polling booth and pick someone other than Michael or Labor or the Greens.
There's some shit that people still don't understand. Topher Field does a great video. Go watch Topher Field's Marbles if you want to understand how it works, the preferencing thing. People ask me all the time about preferences and they fucking melt down and it's stupid and whatever. And it is complicated because, you know, at various times in history, parties have had the power to direct where things go and what have you. But at the end of the day, you're holding the pencil. You put them where you want. You just can't be lazy and you've got to number every box.
Yes.
You number every box. Yeah. And you're controlling your preferences.
And if you can't count to 13, probably you shouldn't have a pencil in your hand.
Well, and that goes across the top as well. Number every box. You can't turn around and go, oh, well, the parties are controlling my preferences. Where are they going? And then you just do your 6.
Yes.
If you're going to do the bare minimum, you're going to get what you fucking get.
Yeah.
Right?
And people are. What you deserve.
Yeah, well, we're already getting what we're deserving.
We're getting democracy.
We've got one of the most insipid, spineless, hopeless opposition leaders we've ever seen, with one of the most bumbling fucking idiot prime ministers we've ever seen. Christ, we've had some bumbling idiot prime ministers.
Yeah, like he's so ripe to be knocked off, and Dutton can't take the swing.
I could throw Ryder on the stage against this idiot, and I reckon Ryder would do him in a debate.
Yeah. No, you know? It's pretty sad.
And Ryder's not a debater yet. Give him time. Well, he is.
Yeah, when it comes to bedtime.
I need them dishes done. I'm not doing it. Yeah, fucking we'll sort that out too, you little muppet. But you've got to put in that time and effort. Now, I've put a Facebook post up the other week basically saying who I was recommending and in what order. I also made a point of saying, really, other than Stewie Bonds in particular, I'm pretty uninspired overall with the list of candidates Australia-wide. There aren't that many that really make me go, oh, fuck yes, that's a breath of fresh air. I like Jared Rennick, what he's doing. Obviously, the Libertarian Party at their core as a party. It's the only party I will outright go, I like the party. But there's an awful lot of candidates they're running this time around. I don't know them.
There was a guy.
So I'm not going to pretend that I'm going to outright endorse every Libertarian candidate because there are some that I don't know. If you're in Port Macquarie, Line, Mark Hornshaw's great. Craig Kelly, he'll be getting my number 1 for the Senate in New South Wales.
There was an interesting YouTube video I watched the other night.
What YouTube video did I make now?
On a fellow for the Australian Citizens Party.
Yeah, that's the party that Richard Foley's currently running for here in the Riverina. Richard's on the news tonight for having said some disparaging things about how dumb people in this electorate can be, and it got caught on camera. And he's a local Wagga councillor, and I believe the statement was something about exhausted after all this campaign bullshit. Fuck some of these conversations. I can't believe how fucking stupid people can be. Now, for what that's worth, is probably a bit insulting, but it's also probably pretty fair.
It could be
in many ways. Not in every way. There's no blanket. And we've all made statements like that. These people are fucking stupid.
But people are stupid in the sense that if you don't do anything different, how can you expect change?
Which is a big part of the argument that I believe he was making. So I rang him when I saw it on the news and whatever. And I said, what have you done? I don't mind Richard. I put him down, I think, number 2 or 3 on my recommendation list. I think for all intents and purposes out of the list that's there, I think he's all right.
If anyone's looking for someone to vote for in the Senate in New South Wales, there's a guy called Professor Andy Schmulow.
Schmulow.
Now, that spells SCHMULOW. Now, he's representing the Australian Citizens Party in the Senate. Now, I watched a video on him. So it's Andy Schmulow, SCHMULOW. Now, he's on a video with Martin North.
Yep.
And he was fantastic.
Yep.
And he's a South African guy who's emigrated here.
Does he meet all the what's the name?
All the criteria.
The citizen.
Citizenship and all the rest of it. He's a really highly educated guy, and he's very passionate. He speaks his mind, and he's an associate professor. He's got a strong background in finance.
Yep.
And he's highly qualified and specialising in financial regulation, so he wouldn't be welcome in Canberra, would he?
No, God,
no. His advice has been sought by governments all around the world. He was involved heavily in the Royal Commission into the banking.
Yep.
The Australian Financial Review described him as spectacularly impolite, which is a compliment.
I reckon it's a compliment. Right? Yeah, that's right. So he's telling the truth.
Despite his forthrightness, his arguments are compelling and his delivery flawless. So he's a pretty well-spoken, eloquent, passionate guy.
Straight shooter who's not going to kiss your ass.
Who seems to have
fantastic
the chops and the runs on the board to be able to do a cracking job to hold these people to account and to really represent.
Yeah.
So if anyone's looking for a Senate candidate and they're a bit undecided, I can strongly, after watching this video, I think that's where my first reference in the Senate will be going.
Fair call.
I do like what the Australian Citizens Party do. The Australian Citizens Party is the political party that are behind the push to establish a post office bank.
Yeah.
Now, there's a couple of pressures starting to build on the cash situation. Now, the government are quite happy to say that banks are pushing back because it costs so much for those banks to transport the cash around and to make it available. And
those poor bastards with their 9 billion profits annually.
To count it and put it in the till and to hand it over the counter. And then if you go in and you get, say, can I withdraw $5,000 of my own money from my bank account? they have to ask you 17 questions as to what you're doing with it and why would you need to get that much money out. And surely have you spoken to
Go
us?
on a bender this weekend. The missus kicked
I
me
want
out.
to put it on black, at the casino.
I'm going to put it on Stewie Bonds for Hunter.
Yeah, whatever. I'm going to the Wagga Gold Cup tomorrow, and I haven't picked out what I'm backing yet, but that's what I'm doing with it.
Yeah, the missus
It's
wants
none
to
of
buy
your
an
business.
dress.
It's my money.
Yeah, that's right.
But there's another big pressure, and no one's really sort of twigged to this. Obviously, running the Australian Mint with the note printing and all of the management associated with that must come at a cost to the government. Wouldn't it be better for the government if they could just all barcode everyone and just hook them up to the matrix and just have it all electronic? Wouldn't it be better?
We know that's their dream.
Yes.
We also know that's not, and that's why.
So I think they're using the banks somewhat as cover.
Of course.
And
absolutely.
I think both operations, the government and the banks, are colluding to remove cash from the society.
Why do you think they brought in that? The business pays your tax. An employee's tax on their behalf, right?
Yes.
And then why do you think they want to get rid of smaller companies? They say small business is the backbone, but they love big corporates because you go to the Woolies payroll, for example, they go, here's the tax for 500,000 people.
Yes.
All done. Just done. There you go.
Yep.
There you go. Done.
Yep.
Whereas all these pesky small businesses, that's extra layers of bullshit. We get rid of all them. We don't have to worry about it. And of course, if it was like the old days, when you want a tax out of me, you want to come and steal my money.
Yeah, and the way things are going in Australia, we've got a duopoly in the grocery space.
Yeah.
But we've really got a monopoly in the hardware space.
Yeah.
So once they get back to a monopoly, so what they're going to have is, they're going to have a monopoly running the grocery sector. They're going to have a monopoly running the hardware sector. They'll have a monopoly running the clothing sector.
They'll have a monopoly running the banks.
Running the white goods and a monopoly running the banks.
And there already is, really.
But
Let's only pretend that
pretty much you, as an individual, you'll be a slave.
You will be. I think you already are.
Well, no, there's still some holding out in the wilderness, running their own businesses, going to work every day and fighting for their rights.
You have employees.
Yes.
I care.
Yes.
The insurance.
Yes.
Now, the first time I ran a business and got a letter from those parasites, I lost my shit. Like, I rang them. Said, fuck you. We're your insurance company. You haven't paid your fees. I never enlisted you to be my insurance company. We are whether you like it or not. Hold the fucking phone, fat man.
No, they are.
Right? If I'm going to be extorted for insurance, I reserve the right as a free individual to be able to pick which shitty insurance company I want to give my money to. No, they pick. And the sooner people realise these things, they're not doing it for your benefit. They're gangsters.
Now,
it's that I care mob is the most mafioso shit.
Yes, but also, I saw an article the other day that gave me cause for concern, and I never had time to go back and read it, so I only really copped the headline, but there is some concerns that the Australia's New South Wales Workers' Compensation Scheme is going to be bankrupt in 18 months.
Good. I want to see them all bankrupt. A fucking lot of them.
Okay, that's one part of it. But there will be, unfortunately, individuals who are deserving recipients of that because it's been paid in.
Sure.
Who will miss out.
Yep. Let's look. One of the other hard-hitting, intense discussions that I had the other day, I made a post that I'd like to see Centrelink just shut down and replaced with nothing. It was quite a highly enthusiastically debated post. I think they're still talking on it. There are still people on that post very offended that I would want to abolish Centrelink and replace it with nothing. But then I figure, what other, if you've got a cancerous tumor, what do you replace it with? Fucking nothing. Well, I've been a pensioner my whole life, and not my whole life. I've been working my whole life, and now I'm a pensioner. What are you saying? I shouldn't get my money? No, look, what I'm saying is you shouldn't have been, paying all that tax your whole life. You should have been keeping what you've earned your whole life. You've earned it. It's yours. And come the end of your working life, you are due to be somewhat responsible for your circumstance. And hopefully you've built up a bit of a nest egg and a you know, you've bought a home, you've done X, Y, and Z, and you're somewhat independent and free based on the fact that you have kept everything you have earned, and that is a reflection of. Now, I'm not saying we should turn around and abolish the old age pension tomorrow, because obviously there's a certain element of the humans that have already been violated to the point that they do deserve to recoup that money in their retirement. What I'm saying is that income tax needs to shrink, and as that shrinks over time, a receptive and reflective shrinkage of pension eligibility should be the same.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you can't have your cake and eat it too.
No.
You can't suck on the tip.
I'm not turning around to pensioners now and saying you shouldn't be eligible for your pension if you've worked for it. I get that.
Yeah.
But as a society, if we don't want our from my perspective, my kids and my grandkids are going to be living in a fucking bankrupt.
Yes, well, here's the headline that caught my eye, and it came up 3 days ago, and it was on the Sydney Morning Herald.
Yeah.
And the headline reads, New South Wales Workers' Comp Scheme only sustainable for another 2 years.
Yeah.
Now that does, and there's an article here from the Mandarin, iCare becomes New South Wales Treasury's ugly duckling. Now that was from October 2024. So obviously there are, and the article from the Mandarin from back in October 2024, a review of the state-owned workers' comp insurer iCare has found executive pay is low compared to the private sector. A pivotal report that was meant to political culture and executive largesse and big ticket compared to private sector. Nah. They're talking about pay packets for the bosses there.
Well, that's easy. Don't give them any. Shut the whole department down. Yeah, I've just solved that problem.
Well,
yeah. I'll solve all the problems.
I hate the idea. I wish there was some way on your mobile phone where you could block the subscription services where they catch your eye with a headline, then you go to read the article.
And you can't read the article.
Yeah.
I sit here with Auntie Di sometimes, and Auntie Di's, she's 70, 75, 76. That age bracket, in her 70s. And she's pretty alert, and she's pretty switched on, and she'll be reading her tablet, you know. Yes, you can see getting a little excited about some headline that she's read, and she'll start, and then she'll get the shits. She's about to read me some story about, I don't know, some asshole that she thinks will get my attention. And then, of course, she can't open it. Then she gets really cranky, and it's kind of funny.
It's funny. It's the next level. It's like the evolution. Remember they used to put that printed front page out on the headline out on the front of the newsstand.
I think that, yeah.
Oh, the Daily Telegraph. Oh, yeah. Dutton shits himself in bed, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we better read
Anthony Irvine has done the following. Oh, yeah, shit.
Absolutely. So, anyway, that's where it's at. So it appears that iCare has got some serious sustainability issues.
God,
but it appears that.
Dear Lord, I'm not a religious man,
but it does appear
collapse those some bitches.
The NDIS is the same, and so many of these other systems that have been put in place that would be lovely to have if, and this is the thing, if corporate Australia paid their way, if the global corporate interests that are raping this country of their gas, of its minerals, of its natural wealth, and absolutely just raping and pillaging, were paying their way, I'm sure we could afford a fantastic NDIS. We could afford great workers' comp. We could afford all these things. But trying to suck it out of a bunch of really downtrodden, absolutely overworked, overstressed, overtaxed, smaller and smaller pool of workers, it's going to blow up.
Of course it's a smaller pool of workers. 1 in 5 of us is disabled. There's 3 of us in this house.
And the rest of them are being paid by government who are sucking the money out of the other part of this.
We're going to hit a wall very, very...
government worker, there's got to be 2 or 3 people with normal jobs to pay the tax to support that government worker.
But it's okay because they pay tax too.
Yes, but...
They don't create anything. They generate it. We are going to go off a cliff. Argentina has proven
that hard.
It's going to be that hard,
and it's going to be so.
It's going to hurt.
It's going to be so sad for some people. They're not going to understand what happened. And they're going to feel like they just got hit by a bus. They're going to be confused.
I'm starting to fall into what could be described as the accelerationist category. if everything's going to collapse, I hope it does it sooner rather than later.
Oh, well, what would you?
And
It's a bit like ripping the scab off, the
I-
Band-Aid off, mate. You know.
Well, you know, people go, "Oh, you're just so harsh and you're so intense and you're whatever." I've got a little boy.
Mm.
I've got other children
Yes.
in the periphery. I've got people I care about. I don't want to have to fight this war when I'm too old and incompetent.
I don't. No, look,
I
I don't want to, buddy, break the news to you, son, but I don't think
I-
this isn't a war that will be won.
No, but when the collapse happens, I want to be in a physical capability that it happens while I'm in my prime, as opposed to for them to have to deal with that shit.
Look, all you can do is to set them up with the same set of tools and hopefully have them ready to go.
Yeah, of course. I just don't. It just pisses me off that Councillor Foley's correct. As a society, we're the dumbest fucks on planet Earth because we're destroying ourselves. And they talk about our children's future with all this fucking net zero bullshit.
Yes.
And I know you think that there's probably a little bit more to it than not. The entire thing, as far as I'm concerned, is bullshit. And if they're all living in the dark under a fucking windmill or whatever they're doing to save the planet, it's a complete waste of time. They're having a life anyway. That to me is just the biggest load of shit imaginable. But if there are hard times coming, I want them to come while I'm still here in a really good physical competency and capability position to deal with it. I also think that we're so arrogant and stupid that we're setting our children and grandchildren up for yes, our kids should be scared, but it's not climate change they should be scared of. It's this fucking economic cliff and this societal cliff. These fucking lunatics are driving us off, all in the name of climate change. That's the we're going to save the planet. It's not the planet we need to save ourselves from. It's these corrupt governments, these broken governments, these authoritarians. And
Albo's housing plan, where Albo's going to start taking a share.
He's going to partners with you.
Yes, he's going to.
The government's going to partner with you to buy a house.
So if you're a person who doesn't qualify for that, you're actually now competing with the government as well. So you're paying tax, so your house prices can be inflated.
Of course, they're going to be inflated. Anytime the government touches something, childcare prices so high.
So the house prices will go up.
So you're going to have, instead of just having me in partnership with the bank for the mortgage for this son bitch.
Yes.
You've got you got the partnerships, the bank. We'll say it's Commonwealth Bank, Joe, and the government, right? So they're the three shareholders now in your home.
Yes.
Now, if you can't pay that mortgage, who do you think wins? Because I can fucking tell you now, the bank's not going to lose out.
No.
The government's not going to lose out.
No.
Poor little Joe here in the middle, you're out in the street, son.
But not to mention, if you go to an auction and you're on your own, right? And Joe's sitting there and he's got Albo on one side and the Commonwealth Bank on the other.
Talking about an ugly fucking sandwich to be in the middle of.
You're up shit creek.
Absolutely you are.
So all of a sudden, your house costs gone up 10%. So it's so retarded that policy is so inflationary.
But all of those policies are.
Yes.
The childcare subsidies.
Yes.
They're taking women out of the home, or men, whichever you want to lay it at. But traditionally, it's been women in the home, looking after the home. We go out, bust our asses. And I'm not against that.
I'm quite happy.
I'm okay with that.
Stay at home if the missus wants to go and do that.
But here we've got to go, okay, we're pulling them out of the home away from our children so that we can send our children off to, not all of them, don't take this personally, but boneheads who have never left school, to raise our children to, I don't know, pray to the transgender flag or whatever it is this fucking week and, abuse the Captain Cook statue because, he's an arsehole or whatever. So we're taking our children from the home to put them with which is, let's be fair, schools basically daycare, indoctrinated. Our women are going out working their clackers off to be worn out, broke, miserable,
and confused,
so that they can pay tax to fund the childcare for the child they've sent off to the indoctrination centre.
Because they'll get to a point, at a certain point, where they'll go, "Oh, I've neglected my career, and I haven't made it in my career, and I haven't been a good mother, and I haven't, and I haven't." And my relationship's fucked. Yes.
And I'm not. Every horse is different. So there's some women that are really built for that, and there are some men that fucking hopeless. There's, it's not just a one or
No,
the
no,
other.
no, it's certainly,
But when you look at it as a societal whole, there was seem to be an awful lot of things functioning a hell of a lot better when people could afford to live,
but don't,
and why
and part of it's this whole,
but then you get a government subsidy.
yes,
We're going to reward you by helping pay for some of your childcare so that both of you can go out slave away
yes,
while we indoctrinate your children,
yes.
so that this ridiculous fucking cycle can continue.
Yeah, we can break.
And then by the time your kids come around, they're gibbering fucking nonsense.
Well, then you'll sit down at the dining room table when they're 13 and you won't be able to hold a conversation with them because you've got nothing in common.
Well, that already happens.
Yeah.
How often does that happen? How many people are sitting out there watching in La La Land, in Australia land, whose children are speaking completely different languages?
Now, we've got a message come in from
Councillor Richard Foley. Mate, you should be home in bed after your performance today. Michael said you've got to go home. Research project Acacia run by the RBA and the coming ATO 3.0. It's how they will government payments infrastructure central bank currency. So obviously this is all. I'll leave this up for a few seconds, and then we'll jump onto the next. He's given us 2 here to play with, guys. So if you're interested, obviously follow, have a look for sure.
But I think he's picked up on that thread that I pulled out before, where the banks and the government are working collectively to remove cash from society.
Yeah. Now, Richard is representing that Citizens Party, if you like.
Yes.
So the ATO's digital strategies align to the Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development, Tax Administration 3.0, the digital transformation of tax administration. They make it nice and simple for everyone. I tell you what, theft and extortion is how I bundle all these things up. It's pretty straightforward, but I'll leave that up for a little while, guys. So for anybody who is, wanting to do their homework, and I know we've got a few people here who do watch this program and then sort of off down the rabbit holes to see.
The thing I say to people is, this stuff doesn't. I don't allow this stuff to worry me.
Yeah.
I don't allow this stuff to spoil my day. I don't allow this stuff to keep me awake at night. Yeah. I just sit there. I consider it. I understand it. I'm disappointed by it.
Yeah.
I feel as though we're wasting a lot of opportunity. But I position myself. I know and I understand it, and I try and avoid the worst consequences of it. But I've still got the obligation to have the most productive, enjoyable life that I possibly can lead.
Sure.
Healthy and contribute. And be. Our role as humans is to integrate into this society and try and make the trip for everyone around us as enjoyable a trip as it can be.
Well, that's a fair analysis.
That's how it is for me.
That's your
That's philosophy. So I don't. I've had these things where they chew you up, and you've got to just take a deep breath. You've got to make sensible decisions. I can't change Australia. I can change the little sphere I work in tomorrow.
Yep.
And the people I interact with and the people I interact with here. So if I can help anyone just understand a little bit of this stuff, wash off a bit of the stress, open up a bit of the conversation, open up a bit of the thought process, and so people actually open to these things and start considering better ways to do things, well, I've had a good day.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I think it really is incumbent upon us to point out the stupidity of the current system, the stupidity of the individuals that are running us, but then we have to reflect that stupidity back upon ourselves because we're allowing it to happen.
Yeah.
If we don't go into that voting booth on Saturday and do something different, then we have got no right to sit here and criticise what's happening.
Oh, look, I do because I vote appropriately every time.
Yes,
and critical I shall be. But
I hope to see.
But
I hope to see a swing against the system.
Yeah, which
surely people's eyes have been opened to the point, like even those revelations that came out just in the last couple of weeks regarding the lies and the bullshit put forward by Chairman Dan Andrews down in Victoria. Now, if every Victorian doesn't feel betrayed, disgusted, that is the sort of thing that these leaders are doing to the populations every day.
And they get away with it every
day.
They
get away with it because people won't demand accountability and demand transparency. I get myself in trouble all the time at council because I demand transparency and accountability. It's so unusual. This council here is so controlled and so managed that anyone who says something that hasn't been vetted or asks a question that's unexpected is frowned upon and jumped upon. And
this question has not been put forward.
This question has not been vetted. The amount of notice of motions that I've had rejected because they've been deemed unlawful.
Unlawful. I have unlawful questions to ask.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, I would love to know the answer to these questions. And in time, they will be answered.
Oh, well, we'll just keep asking them over and over and over again.
Well, like I say,
as poor old Chairman Dan's finding out, eventually it's all going to come out.
Well, it does.
Eventually, we're in a digital age, baby. It's all going to come out eventually, one way or the other.
And that's
the good, the bad, the ugly.
Now, another shout out we have to give to our stellar star of the show, Andrew Thaler, who our ratings went absolutely to the moon.
Well, yeah.
The week that
Andrew
Thaler from
Nibbitabel,
Snowy Monero Regional Council, and
the mayor of Nibbitabel,
inimitable member from Nibbitabel.
Yes.
He's put his name forward in the federal ring for
Monero.
Yeah, and is it Eden Monero?
Eden Monero.
Yeah.
So, I ran there as a candidate once upon a time. It was that was a tough going, I'll tell you.
This bloke gets that much shit thrown at him.
Oh.
And I'm telling you, he just goes.
He's bomb proof.
Washes it off and goes.
Yep, going again.
All right.
I'm on the side of right. I'll keep right on trucking.
Yep. So, look, every time, and I don't know what he's done, but by jingoes, the media hate him.
Oh, look.
And he just...
They hate him because he just doesn't stop.
He doesn't stop, and
he's so relentless.
Yes. And 1 minute they've absolutely got him plastered all over the front of the paper for assaulting a woman, and then 6 months later
comes out the woman assaulted.
It comes out those charges have been withdrawn, and then there've actually been reverse charges put upon that woman for assaulting him.
Yes,
but it doesn't seem to get anywhere near the amount of airplay.
Of course not.
Isn't that unusual?
No, that's not unusual. That's standard operating procedure.
Propaganda Pete doesn't operate over in those areas.
That's how they roll.
Have they got a version of Propaganda Pete?
Listen, if Anthony Irvine killed cancer tomorrow, there'd be something in the paper from Propaganda Pete saying,
the funeral directors are going to go broke.
Cancer has been violated by this evil fascist.
No, funeral directors are going broke. Irvine ruins the funeral director industry. He's cured cancer.
Stephen Cook bankrupted by Anthony Irvine because there's no more. Poor old Cookie.
Absolutely.
There's only Cookie in town, isn't there?
He's got a monopoly on it here.
Yeah, fair enough. Well,
he plants them.
Fair play. Somebody's got to do it. There's a bit of a shout out for a bloke's business. Not that I think he needs the promotion, but
he'd be going all right.
Oh, he'd be going
I wouldn't mind being $10 behind Stephen and Murray.
Look, let's be fair. It's a dead set good gig. Really, it's they haven't stopped making them.
No.
Actually, I was watching this video the other day, and in America, one of the current trends is people buying up land and working to specifically get that land zoned for cemeteries. It's actually becoming an actual business that people are getting into.
Private cemeteries.
So people are going and buying up X amount of acreage and creating these private cemeteries. Obviously, you've got to stick a certain amount of boxes, I suppose. Don't be throwing dead bodies in the ground everywhere. They seem to frown upon that a little bit.
There'd have to be some sort of interesting zoning made so that obviously when you pass on and you actually plant yourself in your own paddock, who does it transfer to and how does that continue on so that you don't have a situation where you've all got to be dug up and relocated?
I don't know. Look, America's a funny place and I like a lot of it, and other bits I go, shit, well,
that's weird.
You got to take the good with the bad. That's what life's all about. But
some people just like to have themselves toasted and roasted and then scattered on the four winds. They don't have to take up any land. There's all sorts of different ways that people are choosing to be moving into the next realm. What do you got there?
Just The story this evening, the breaking Richard Foley story.
Now, actually,
Our mayor has commented on the news feed.
has he?
The news
He's
feed.
wading in.
Well, I suppose wading in. Yes, of course. Utterly disgraceful comments. Appalling, actually. From someone you'd think would know better. The voters will determine who is best placed to represent the federal seat of the Riverina. Well done, Rick. That's lovely. You stand by your man.
Oh, he will be standing there. He'll be right behind him. He'll be right behind him all the way.
Oh, fuck, no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. I'll tell you what.
He's been right behind him right from the outset.
I don't want to know what he's been right.
No, he has. He has. He's been right behind him all the way.
So this is all the big guns are out today.
Yeah. Who's having a go?
I'll just have a bit of a
Foley's put a bit.
Paul, I've just received a message from Paul Fennell.
Have you?
I have. I'll tell you what, I fucking love life sometimes. Ladies and gentlemen, so if you're aware of
disgrace Wagga Councillor Paul Fennell.
Disgrace Wagga Councillor.
That's how they introduced him on the news.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Paul, I'll tell you what, look, and I tell you, I know Paul and Richard have been friends and enemies and whatever. I've never had any
acquaintances.
Yeah, whatever. I've never had any issues with either bloke directly. As far as I've never had a negative experience with either guy, so I treat everybody as I take them. So I'm more than happy to. You blokes have your own war in your own time, but I'm quite happy to give you both their time with me. So speaking of media hating people because they expose the truth, I know firsthand what they do, the media, and how they will perpetually go after individuals even after they are out of public office.
Well, this is from Disgrace Council. That's how he was introduced on the news tonight.
My example, Prime 7 Wagga with their constant defamatory comments whenever my name pops up. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. All that said, we must never stop our fight against this system, these bureaucrats and these media itself. Regards, Paul Funnell. I agree with you wholeheartedly, Paul. These parasites are off their fucking head. They're jumped up. I hope you don't mind that I read that out, mate, but you're 100% correct. And they will target you, and they will gun for you if you don't kiss the appropriate machine's ass.
Yes. And they bring in
every trick in the book, every gun in the clip, every
I was talking to
every tool in the box, if you will.
The only reason I'm sitting here, and we've spoken about this at length, was because I was engaged by Temora Shire Council to undertake a task for them. And when they reneged on that task and threw me under the bus, and I got out and dusted myself off and stood up for my own rights, ever since then, they have had a campaign to try and destroy my reputation, to destroy my business, to destroy my future. They've taken out so many different really, really bad actions against me and attempted detriment. It's just unbelievable. And what was my crime? Standing up for myself and demanding that I be compensated for all of the time that I'd spent in that project that I'd been given and worked in.
And again, this is why I'm so determined, and have been for many years now, to challenge these asshats.
They have to be challenged because they are out of control. They think they can treat people just so disgustingly, and people will take it. And they get away with it when people buckle. They get away with it when people don't jack up.
Well, the old saying, evil triumphs when good men do nothing.
Absolutely.
And I've said it over and over again. COVID actually, whereas knocked a lot of people around, it actually gave me a little pep in my step. So, oh, fuck, there's some people joining me here.
Yes.
My little one-person club got bigger. I'm not going to say one-person club because it was at the time,
there was a period in the middle of COVID when it was extraordinarily lonely for anyone who was charting a course of independence.
For sure, but
everyone who was huddling together
I'm talking prior to that, when I first got involved with the Liberal Democrats. We had a federal senator, David Lionel, still one of the finest politicians Australia has ever had. I don't, go but research the guy, look into David Lionel. I might even ask him to come on the program one night. Good. Why not? See if he's available and interested in having a yak. But I discovered this little political party, and I knew nothing of politics. I knew I had some fucking issues. And when I say I knew nothing, I'm fairly well versed in it. I read a lot, blah, 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 blah. But the actual workings and the machinations of it, certainly on a national level. These guys had a federal senator. I thought this must be the biggest show in the world. And I showed up to a branch meeting in Burwood, 2012, 2013. I'd written him an email, this David Lynham, about some certain child parentage matters, father's rights type stuff. Mate, what do you think about X, Y, Z? I got the most, it wasn't just him that I sent to. I sent a bit of an email to quite a few trying to work out where you stood and why the whole system's screwed. And he responded with, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I don't have any immediate plans to do anything about it. It's not on my list. But that whole part of the system's completely effed. Well, that's a very honest email from I'm only going to have a bit of a look at this bloke. I like it. Everybody else sent back waffle and bullshit. And I thought, this bloke seems to have really written this, or his staff are based. Went to this meeting, and to be fair, there was 5, 6 people. I looked in there. I wanted to just sit at the back of the room and not get noticed. Now, I don't.
Pretty hard to do with 5 or 6 people.
It's pretty hard to do that if you're a fairly, like even an innocuous sort of a human's going to be noticed into those. So I struggle to be that innocuous, even when I'm trying to be innocuous. Like I kind of, oh fuck! Next thing you know, we're in the middle of the room, and oh shit, here we go. And but that was where this Libertarian Party, looking at where it is now. They've got a MLC in Victoria and one in New South Wales, and hopefully they'll get something up. This federal election would be great. Some really good councillors. But from those days through to where they are now, I go, okay, well, I've played a part in that.
Yep.
And I also look at it and I kind of go, seeing all these other parties that are kind of similar, they still can't quite get it right, but at least they're trying to work together now, which is nice. And I'm looking at it going, even locally now, I've got, for example, we're having a conversation where Richard Foley, Andrew Thaler, yourself, Paul Fennell, all these people who are...
We've got 13 candidates in Riverina.
Yeah, but I'm talking about, though, I'm fucking... Because you've got candidates in there, the Greens and Teals and Partridge and a pear tree, I can care less. But as far as these people who have been somewhat aggrieved, somewhat bullied, somewhat harassed, all in a position where they can jump on a live stream and not be silenced. They can produce materials and get it out to the public. They can stand on their own 2 feet, potentially with a little bit of support. If nothing else, it's a support group for fucking people who stand up for themselves.
I've been to 2 elections and I've got the second most amount of votes twice.
Yep.
Out of 9 councillors. That'll do me.
Oh, mate, no doubt.
And like I say, I was quite happy just to cruise along doing my thing. It was only when I got absolutely bashed,
shellacked.
That I dusted myself off and thought, this won't do.
Yep.
And the amount of people that have come to me that I've been able to help in the process blows me away. But it also disgusts me.
That you have to.
Yes, because some of the stuff that's happening to these other individuals is just absolutely...
I sit there and I get plenty of what I would consider unusual calls. Because I'm not anything. I'm just a guy who works a bit. I was a chef for 20 years. I've got a big mouth. But the phone calls you get,
there's nothing wrong with having a big mouth.
Oh, look, it's kept me. It's my biggest strength and biggest weakness all in the same vein. Fuck around and find out, because I'll absolutely go to town on you. As our mates at the Hit Job Herald discovered, I didn't back off on that.
That's what I mean. That's the reason we're doing this podcast.
And they don't, now they're just in it. They have no idea how to respond to somebody who does what I do.
You can't say that on the radio show. All right, well, we'll say it locally.
Just did. And, and we learned that. They come gunning at me. I gunned right back, which is unusual. They're not used to it. But when I get a call from veterans.
Yes.
I've had one today about a veteran who's homeless.
Yeah.
Will I be able to help him? I'm not sure, but I'm certainly going to spend some time
and find some people who might.
Try and find people that might be able to help this guy. Why do I get the call?
Yeah.
No, it's not because I'm wealthy. It's not because I'm in any position of power or authority. It's because people know that if they ask and if I can, I will.
Yeah.
And that's a nice feeling because I go, okay, well, I'm contributing here without, and I don't have to be an arselick about it. You're not going to see me on a video tomorrow with said veteran, you know, like all the kids doing now. Oh, look at me giving somebody $10 because I'm such a fun, good person. I'll go and I'll try and sort this thing out for the guy. But I'll mention it here because when you get a call from some constituent going, can you help? That makes it worthwhile. For me to be in a position where I'll get a call like that, which I received this afternoon. I went, fuck, I don't know. Do I know somebody? You know, and I'm racking my brain about who I know, and got a pretty cool little black book, and we'll work our way through that. And I'll go and see what I can do for this guy. And I've had a few like that.
But even at the very least, that individual would have been feeling fairly alone.
Absolutely.
And just having someone supportive to discuss their plight with is a help in itself.
How do we move forward? What can we do?
But even just having someone in your corner, even if they can't help you, if they're just wishing you all the best, it's a start.
It's a step. It's a smile.
And you know you're not on your own.
It's a smile when everybody else is looking down upon you.
I had an opportunity to offer a lady who felt isolated and a little bit bullied by something that was going on at council. And you could just tell that when I said to her, I said, don't feel bullied. If you need a hand, you just reach out and I can give you a hand.
I'll go and advocate for you.
We can go and sit down and we can discuss these matters with council and we can sort something out. And she said, you can just tell that she went, really? Yeah, we can do that. That's what we do. That's how we. That's my job.
To be there. Yeah.
My job is to advocate on behalf of you guys.
Ratepayers. Yeah. You're
so
a ratepayer.
If you're feeling bullied or you're feeling aggrieved, you come see me.
Yeah.
And if I reckon it's Ridgy Ditch, well, we'll sort some shit.
Oh, we're more than happy to go. Yeah, absolutely. Jump in that ring.
They can't resist that. Like if it's got some basis.
Yep.
And it's put to them with some common sense approach.
Well, and there's a lot of people that can't talk like you or I can't articulate things that they want to say.
A lot of people aren't even going.
Well, but there's a combination.
What are they going to say about me? I don't care what they're going to say. They've said everything about me.
I've already been called everything. I could care less. But there are people out there who don't have our level of, I guess, confidence in the space, who aren't confident that if I don't know an answer to the question, I'm very confident I can figure it out, or I can find some arsehole who can help me.
You can. Or you can look at enough stuff to be able to formulate your own.
I'll be able to formulate a plan, or I'll be able to ring somebody. Hey, have you ever done, or do you know anything about, or how do you, whatever. The reality of it is, some people are, and we've talked about it, where you've quite often with some of my policies have kind of gone, oh yeah, but what about the big evil bully? Da, 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 da. That's what we're built for. That's why there are humans of our persuasion here, is our role.
I just find that there's some people out there in the world who are taking way more than their share, and they need to be pulled into line. That's where it's at.
Oh, I don't disagree with that either. And there's some people out there who are dead arseholes.
Yeah.
But if there's not people out there
pulling them into
willing to look them in the eye and go, you're a dead shit,
pull your head,
you're out of line. I don't give a fuck who you think you are. You're not special. You breathe the same oxygen as everybody
100%.
else. And that's what we're going to see with this election. You know, I want to see massive swings against the major parties. I don't think
against the major parties.
I don't honestly think it's going to happen. Look, or maybe I'm a bit pessimistic.
No. It's got to get worse before it gets better. And I think
we're nowhere near as a society as broken as it's going to get before anybody realises. And by the too late.
We've both had 3 meals today. We've both got running water. We've both, we're living
like kings.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
There is, So when we talk about this stuff, it's probably more about, well, to hark back to the Anzac theme from last week, the opportunities that we've been given and the absolute prime chance we have. I just don't want to see it squandered. I know what cost people have had to pay to provide it.
Yeah.
And to give us this opportunity, and just to see it wasted and squandered and just taken for granted by a bunch of absolute, well, there's some people who are actually taking it willingly, and there's other people who are just wasting it and frittering it away.
Parasites.
Yes.
So we have a very high parasitic population, sadly.
to wrap this up into something positive,
Yep.
go into the polling booth on Saturday and for Christ's sake, do something different. Do something.
Yep.
Don't just go in there thinking about what you're doing.
Watch Topher's Marvel videos. Even if you're scared of Labor, you're going to get Labor anyway at this stage.
Well, it looks like it's
You're going to get Labor at this stage.
But
I'll be happy to. I'll be happy to eat my hat. But you're going to get Labor this stage. McCormack's got no real swing anymore. He's effectively useless.
He's in opposition.
And he's a nice guy from the interactions I've had. He's always been nice to me, but I reckon there's a lot of people who are nice to me just because they know I'll call them out if they're not.
No. That's his. Look, he's a human
that's his
being.
job. Yeah,
he doesn't go out of his way to be nasty to people.
No, well, not that I've seen. So
Yeah.
I don't have any drama with him from that little corner of the world. But I
just look at the big picture and what his party has done and what his governments have done to Australia.
And they've done.
And I don't see a great result.
I haven't seen a great result either. And we all know what a shit job Labor does and what destruction they're doing. So again, let's try and God, I'd love to see a massive swing against all of them. My number one vote's going to be the Libertarian Party. The Citizens Party may be getting a number 2 after our discussion
if
tonight.
If we see a swing, they will sit back and they will take notice.
No, there was a swing last time against them, and there was a swing the time before, and that swing's got to get a lot harder because they're still sitting there very, very deluded, thinking that they're power players. And fortunately for us, Albo got elected for 32% of the vote. He's the lowest primary vote.
That's what I mean.
Elected prime minister.
There's going to be a point where they end up with these fractured governments of minority rule.
Oh, we're going to be like Europe is at the moment, where you're going to have about 8 parties to make up a minority government, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But the sooner we work out that we are not all united peoples, everybody wants to, but we're all this and we're all that and we're all in this together. We're not.
No. There's so many people pulling in different directions.
There are exactly with different motivations, some more noble than others.
And I think a lot of the policies that the major parties are putting in place are actually really divisive and actually adding to that.
Of course they're adding to that. So, have you ever seen the meme, the king and the jester looking out over the crowd, and the jester or whatever he is says to the king, he says, you don't have to, all you need to do is convince the pitchfork people that whatever the other, the torch people are going to take their pitchforks and vice versa, and that's how you solve the problem. And it's a fairly apt little.
They've got everyone going at everyone.
As long as you're going at each other, we up here on the hill are looking good. We're all getting out $200,000 a year and back into the mines,
back into the trough.
Yeah, that's right. Ladies and
as
gentlemen,
many backenders as you can along the way and get a cushy corporate job on the way out. That's the way it works.
That's the way it works. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Dean and Spin Doctors, episode 15.
I reckon we cured a bit tonight.
I reckon we cured a bit.
Anyone need a hand sing out?
Absolutely.
Have a great week. Don't let them do odd things to you with that democracy sausage.
And feel free to check out the recommendations that I put up on Facebook a couple of weeks ago if you're interested. It's only my opinion.
Hey, have a look around.